Well, I'd like to welcome you all here, and I'm glad you're here. I would like you to witness the ambient video art movement and some of the associated parts of the whole movement that include the pioneers of the movement that actually started the majority of the slow motion side. And as was mentioned, TransLumen does sub-threshold extreme gradual change, which you'll have a nice chance to view 90 seconds of collaborative art on the next piece, which is a piece that was compiled through 3 CNMS members that it would not have actually been possible had the Chicago New Media Summit not been available, and also had the internet and Flickr not been around, this would have never actually have happened. The piece was actually done prior to the pioneers on the slow side of imaging in the ambient video art include Jim Bizzacci and his video paintings. Brian Eno, which most of you are probably aware of, has music-based slow motion art. Jeffers Egan has computer-generated and interactive slow motion imagery. And then yours truly with sub-threshold extreme gradual change. Actually, most of what my company has done over the last 8 years, because we started right at the .com bust, has been with NASA, Homeland Defense, Office of Naval Research, and so on. But the true passion is in the art and what it can do as far as art and imaging and health and wellness and advertising. The overall enabling technologies that were required to come to bear to provide a platform where you could really use it to present art go all the way from the flat panel display screen, the plasmas, the LCDs, and so on, which are psychologically perceived more as being capable of being an art piece than the old bulbous CRT-based TVs. The increased resolution capabilities has added immensely to the potential to provide art on an electronic display. Even just the apparent increase in resolution that comes from using a progressive rather than an interlaced display, the reduction of vibration because of that, so you're not getting an image that is distracting. Then the DVD, Blu-ray, broadband, the capability of distributing this content has had a major thing. And then, as I mentioned a little bit, the social networks and so on, there would actually be basically no movement right now, to the best of my knowledge, had Flickr not been available, had some of the other social networking sites been available, because most of us would not have been aware of what the other person was doing. Then there would have been no collaborations, no communications. Any electronic display surface is a potential for putting advertising, information, art, and what you're going to see is a veritable explosion of display screens. I mean, like on a logarithmic basis. Right now, we're in a recession. People aren't spending money, yet I think it was first quarter, the number of flat-paneled screens and TVs that were sold was 28% higher than the year prior. So you're just going to see more and more screens, and the new technologies that are coming out that are going to allow screens to exist in places they did not exist before. You'll actually see true mobile signage that's video-based. So video is probably going to be the major conveyor of information and content over the upcoming years. The need for the art and the content, and I think in a lot of cases advertising-based imagery is going to be, I think, exponential in growth also. And I mean, think of running a nice piece of art like the Road to Sewell's Barn that you saw earlier, maybe with a little kind of a network bug coming in and out very, very gradually, but nonetheless somewhat persistent, and being sponsored by whoever's brand wanted to be there. Similar to the way people used to put calendars from Joe's Body Shop or from the local hardware store in their kitchen or in their office, because it had a nice picture, served a function of having the calendar, and then still provided some advertising space, so they didn't worry about that too much. I think the same thing can hold true with the use of the screens as art. And the other alternative is the blank screen or the black hole. Typically, people either have active content on their televisions, or they have the screen totally blank. I've got a friend who has 3 screens in her living room, and that's starting to chew up a lot of wall space. And if they are all off, I mean, it's like almost like walking into a cave. An actual example of the technology in the use of an ambient type of art piece is at the Hotel Cass at 640 North Wabash. When they decided to renovate and completely redo and revamp their image, they put an 80-inch DLP screen behind the front desk, and they wanted an experience where when a guest walked in to do the registration process, they would get exposed to a Chicago skyline and go, wow, nice image of Chicago. Then when they're doing the registration, they would actually not be disrupted because there's no abrupt change in the image itself. And when that happens, they complete the cycle without disruption, which brings on the potential of errors anytime you're disrupted. And when they walk back, they look and they go, oh, it's different now. And frequently, the people do actually stand back and they watch it, waiting for it to change again. They don't see it change. And so then they either get involved in conversation and then go, wait a minute, now it's changed again. It's kind of an interesting process. When you think of all of the different potential venues for the art, advertising, and information, I mean, outdoor billboards, transit huts with the capability of putting imagery on those rather than just the window shade types of technologies. Entertainment, healthcare, broadcasting, all of those things are being brought together, and you've got the capability of aggregating all of these different areas into one display surface. And the lines, I think, are going to blur. So there's not going to be a big distinction in a lot of cases between art, advertising, and information. At this point, I would like to introduce you to actually a new form of art that was coined by Dr. Sally Metzler, art historian here in Chicago. And that's stillism. And what it really is it's based on the fact that in ambient video art, that actually covers everything from relatively high motion to relatively or imperceptibly changing imagery, which is what we do. And there's a need to define and break that into at least two different categories. Stillism basically covers an image that, at a casual glance, it appears to be a still, then that's stillism if it's video, okay? Some of the advantages of stillism specifically is it's somewhat of a greener technology due to the fact that you can actually work with the delta and change, so you're consuming less bandwidth, which can be a lower consumption of power, and the same thing with CPU usage. You've got a wow factor, at least right now, of novelty, because people aren't used to seeing something that looks like a still on a TV screen anyway, and the fact that then it does change is definitely a novelty factor. You can also use and repurpose contents from existing campaigns, which is kind of cool. Qualitative, one of the things that you can do is you can actually use public space art information and advertising and put it into a community space and let it actually evolve and both draw the community in and evolve with the community as the community itself changes. On a quantitative basis, you can vary pricing. There are ways to affect a pricing model based on the time of day, the type of imagery that's actually being shown, and I think that the capability to tailor both art and information and advertising brings a lot of potentials. For signage, an interesting thing, you think of billboards and you think of digital billboards. One of the problems that exist with anything that's disruptive in your peripheral vision and so on, like when you're driving, is that if there's a disruptive change out there, you can experience what they call a saccade, which is when your eyes totally involuntarily go off to the side. National Safety Council says follow the car in front of you by at least 2 seconds, and that's the 2-second rule, and if they hit their brakes, you can hit your brakes and you'll stop before you hit them. The bad thing is if you experience a saccade at the same time that they're hitting their brakes, you're going to chew up just about 1 second of time in your gaze being diverted and then coming back on task, which is driving in. You're probably going to run into the car in front of you at that point. The image that is on your left-hand side is a discrete set of images, and basically it could be somewhat similar to a slideshow or other type of very discrete imaging where you've got a dramatic change over a very, very short period of time. The image on the right-hand side is a transluminized or subthreshold extreme gradual change image that is actually evolving and will not only take you from the image of the full color, but to a black and white image with the single koi in the middle actually having color. The capability of utilizing a piece of imagery that changes very, very subtly, very, very slowly, can actually provide more impressions than a still image. Like if you think of a logo that's on a rotating basis, that you've got logo A up for 8 or 10 seconds, it rotates to a new one, it rotates to another one. After about the second or third exposure to that logo, your mind has a tendency to filter that information out. It turns it into visual noise and basically says, I don't want to pay any attention to that anymore. So you're really not getting more impressions, even though it's going up and it's in the person's field of view. The capability at that point with the subthreshold extreme gradual change is very interesting. You can try this at home. Take your TV, put closed captioning on, and if the image changes but the text remains the same, you will probably start to reread that text again, at least to the point where you go, oh, I've already read it. So that is a second impression. If you can create approximately a 20% change in a background image, you can get people to reread the same text relatively frequently, so you can get more impressions. The aspect of an image that is a 30-second or a 60-second video clip those also have a tendency to be filtered out based on exposure. Now, if it happens to be a commercial that you really like, you might watch it over and over again. But if it's something that does not attract your interest, once that filter goes in place, it becomes visual noise, and you're really not getting any more impressions at that point. Thank you very much.